And good afternoon. Welcome into Market Talk on this Thursday, March 24th. Great to have you join us and make us part of your day. Once again, I'm your host, Jesse Allen. Find us online, markettalkag.com. That is our home on the web. That is where you can find us, markettalkag.com. Well, we had a bit of a down day throughout the grain trade today. Cattle were the strong side of the ag trade on the day. Let's talk about everything. Joining us, John Heinberg with Total Farm Marketing, our guest today. John, good afternoon to you, sir. And, it just felt like a quiet day today. A little bit of profit taking, a little consolidation, really just looking for some news. And we're kind of waiting on fresh news, it feels like, in the grain markets, John.
Yeah, you're talking about the perfect example of consolidation. Look at that May contract for corn. We're talking 16 consecutive days trading the 750 level. So we're tightening the spring, waiting for some direction, one way or another to get this market to move. Maybe it's just going to be holding in here until we get that report next week with the acreage numbers as well as grain stocks. Everybody's talking about the acre report. Let's not forget about the fact that grain stocks are on there, and that could be the real key, especially for these old crop contracts. We probably used quite a bit of corn up here in the first half of the year, or the first quarter of the year. So we'll have to see how things kind of come together there. But again, a little bit softer today, probably led by crude oil down a couple dollars after a strong day yesterday. So we saw a little bit of profit taking. It was encouraging to see the Chinese step into the soybean market, picked up a nice bunch of beans there as well today. Sometimes that triggers a little bit of selling, sell the fact mentality. And then we're still watching what wheat wants to do, is most of these grains just continue to ping pong back and forth, wide trading ranges, but it's still at least in a consolidation mode and probably till next week.
Well, let's talk weekly export sales. I know looking there, grain side was rather meh. Did you see anything that stood out to you in the grain side, one way or the other?
The best part, and to me, obviously the bean sales, corn sales were within expectations. Nothing over the top, extremely strong there. Did like the corn inspections number at 1.4, almost 1.5 million metric tons. Obviously, we should start seeing that pick up here in this window. Didn't see a lot on the bean side in terms of those expectations there, or those inspections and those shipments. But overall, it was pretty straightforward report with not a whole lot. The biggest thing we're really watching too in the wheat market, are we going to start seeing some more of that demand shift our way? And didn't get the indicators of that, at least today.
Well, I know as well this meeting of NATO, G7, EU leaders today, kind of waiting to see what Russia's response is. And it felt like maybe that was part of the market just kind of consolidating and quiet today, wondering what is Russia going to do in response to these sanctions. I know their rhetoric towards other countries such as Poland and Eastern Europe is ramping up. So this Russia Ukraine situation obviously not going away, and it just feels like the market's waiting to see what happens there next before it really makes a big move one way or the other.
Yeah, obviously that the geopolitical side is extremely concerning. For sure nice to keep this in the Ukrainian borders, even though I'd love to see this come to an end for the humanitarian standpoint of it. But Putin's backed into a bit of a corner here, and we'll have to see how he responds in that regard. Even this afternoon, President Biden was talking about the U.S. would respond if he used chemical weapons. Well, the question is, what would the response be? And is he, in a corner enough that he might even try something to see what that response is to continue to test the West? So it's pretty nerve wracking from that standpoint. Obviously, the markets are going to try to digest the headlines on a daily basis. Even though things are still going, the news front is basically status quo over there, which is going to keep the market supported, but not give us enough for it to take off again or fall apart one way or another.
Well, John, looking at these grains and obviously now heading towards next week's grain stocks and acre report and this kind of consolidation mode we've been in, is this a good time for producers if they need to kind of re-examine their marketing plan and try to firm things up one way or the other as we head into those reports next week?
Yeah, this is a spot where I've been having a lot of conversations with producers about those, because obviously we have a fairly large event coming next week. And with that report, it could be a major mover in terms of the marketplace. Those grain stocks numbers can really shift things around, very, very quickly at times. If there's a spot, if somebody is light on sales, we start getting some things put together. I know I've had a few conversations with guys today regarding, the fertilizer costs and making sure we're getting some sales into those, because, obviously the margins aren't very good there. but it'd be a lot worse if we were down 50 cents on corn or a dollar on beans because of something that comes out of that report next week. So I've been talking with a lot of producers about standpoint of, at least try to find a way to minimize your risk, make that cash sale, look at some call option strategies over top of corn out to December. At least that way we've got a fixed or a known risk on top versus having unlimited risk either direction. So some guys who are lighter on the sales are looking to pull that trigger and maybe possibly get that done in here.
And I know just looking through the numbers at the close today, beans held at 17 on that May contract. I know that was an area we waited breakthrough, did. Now we kind of pull back towards it. So, watching that 748 and a quarter on May corn. But you look at the new crop contracts as well. We've seen great value there as we have that quote unquote fight for acres between corn, beans, spring wheat, cotton. You throw that in there. So, a lot of things to watch closely heading to next Thursday.
Yeah, very much so. I'm watching the close at least today. We're down, but holding 17 is still the key. We're still well above what I classify as a kind of a break point that I think this market starts to think about going back lower on those May beans. I'm kind of watching that 1660 area. That's a bit of a trend line. Right now we're still trading above that, which still keeps the old crop pointed higher, at least at my charts at this time frame. But we're going to need some news now. Good strong demand today. That was good to see in terms of that sale to China. There was talk also today the Chinese are in the market for 12 to 15 cargoes of Brazilian and US beans, with some of those beans again getting tagged to come out of the Pacific Northwest. So we'll see if we get any more announced sales tomorrow. We went through a window there. Basically, March 8th was our last published sale for beans, and now we've picked up two in a couple days here. So it's at least encouraging to see that they're probably stepping back in the market, needing to get some more coverage in as we get further into the spring and in the summer.
John, let's flip over to livestock today. Beef. That weekly export sales report, a marketing year high, very strong. Cattle futures, responded today, traded mostly higher. Wasn't a huge upside day, but still higher. What do you make of that marketing year high in the weekly export sales and just the outlook for cattle here as we head into a cattle on feed report tomorrow?
It was a very good close again today. I like the price action the last 2 days. I mean, yesterday we had that strong start in the grain market, even though it started to fade towards the end. Cattle kind of rejected those lows off the open, finished in the top end of the range. Did the same thing again today. So that tells me there's a little bit of money moving in. Maybe it's some squaring up going into the cattle on feed numbers here at the end of the week. But again, like you said, export sales market year high at 200. I can't talk. Excuse me, 27,500 tons. Encouraging to see China again, second biggest buyer of U.S. beef last week. And then we got an announcement this morning too that the U.S. and Japan have agreed on some more points to allow more U.S. beef imports into Japan. We'll get some more details on that as that comes a little bit closer and gets more finalization on it. So again, those demand factors continue to stay supportive, and these cattle prices are still starting to struggle to push higher. Because over top of that, always still weighs where's the consumer here for the U.S. What's going to happen with energy prices? Where are we at with disposable income? And I think that's some of the reason we've kind of held in here. Where we have, just because that pure fact that gas prices go up tightens the consumer dollar. They're looking maybe more at pork and poultry versus beef in terms of what they can afford with that consumer dollar. So a lot of little things moving right now, but I like the technical action, especially going into that report. And maybe we get a chance here. We can push this thing through and get some movement back to the upside, and probably where we need to be, especially given the prices of other meats.
Definitely something to watch. I know cash trade this week's been a little disappointing, pretty much steady with last week. We'll keep our eyes on that as well, and futures heading into the end of the week. Hog side, a little bit mixed to lower today. I know we got the cold storage numbers yesterday, but really just looking at hogs. I know pork cutouts were higher at midday today, thinking that, maybe that's been a way to support this market. So I wonder, could we look at another big update tomorrow or not? What's your thoughts with the hog market?
Yeah, today was a consolidation day. We had that gap out yesterday and challenged those contract highs again, kind of faded off those a little. So a little bit of follow through, especially with a little softer tone on the close on those retail values. So, but midday values, like you said, were firmer again today. They're holding really good value on a historical level, and that's keeping that cash market in play as well. So we don't have a lot of gap right now between the April and the index. So that just kind of lets that market kind of free flow a little bit, especially as we're getting closer to expiration. but sure looks like we want to consolidate here. Wouldn't be shocked that we get one more push out to the upside. We hit trend line resistance over those charts yesterday in terms of those summer months. Now maybe we're just going to find ourselves a little bit of strength here. Look for some news that maybe can push us higher. Slaughter is down about 8% year over year right now. Again, showing that tighter hog supply. Demand continues to be relatively strong. Still like this hog market going forward here, especially if we can get some more technical flow and some money flow. If we can come back through those prices from yesterday and break this thing back out to the upside.
How about that dairy market, John? Seeing a bit more of a quiet day, it felt like there today. Any thoughts with what's going on in dairy?
Like the rest of some of these markets here, we're sitting at the top of multi-year highs with only, all-time highs out there sitting in front of us. We're looking at milk prices in the 26 window or upper 25s back in 2014, and we're thinking about poking at that. We continue to see good demand. We're getting in that window. Maybe we see production pick up a little bit more here as we get closer to the springtime window. But again, a lot of really good value. Feels like that April contract, especially when we get a little boost in cheese or in that butter price. Maybe we go ahead and poke on through here and go challenge that all-time high, and then we'll see what happens in terms of milk prices. But you're looking at $24 average plus all the way through 2022 or the remainder of 22. A lot of great value for producers out there.
Well, John, I know we got you for a short time today. We appreciate you jumping in on the show here. Any final thoughts for us here on this Thursday?
It'll be interesting to see how our Friday trade goes. Lately the pattern in grains has been buy it on Sunday night, sell it on Friday. So we'll have to see how things are kind of going into the weekend again. Do they want to hold that length? Again, market prices held in today. We'll see what the outside markets give us and things of that nature for the weekend. But I expect things to stay pretty choppy into the end of the month until we get that USDA report next week, and that'll truly be probably the focus of the media as well as the markets in general.
Well, again, great time for producers to really take a look at their marketing plans. I know if they need help and need advice, they can reach out to you and the team there at Total Farm Marketing very easily, can't they?
Sure. Love to chat with them anytime. Give me a call, 800-334-9779. Feel free to shoot me an email, John H at totalfarmmarketing.com. And again, that website of ours is totalfarmmarketing.com. A lot of great information. Sign up for a free trial to our newsletter, as well as look at some of the webinars that we'll be putting together for that acres report here next week. Again, all those materials are free to producers.
TotalFarmMarketing.com is where you can find them. John Heinberg, appreciate the time today, sir. Thanks for jumping on with us here on this Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you on Monday.
John Heinberg with Total Farm Marketing, our guest today here on Market Talk. That's going to do it for the show on this Thursday, March 24th. Find us online, markettalkag.com. I'm Jesse Allen. Have a great afternoon.